The Secret Service is under scrutiny in the wake of two failed assassination attempts on former President Donald Trump over the summer. Since October of 2022, at least 1,400 employees quit working for the Secret Service, marking the biggest exodus from the federal agency in 20 years. At the time of the first assassination attempt on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, the agency was significantly understaffed. Roughly a week after the incident, the head of the Secret Service stepped down. 3 weeks later, Congress announced a bipartisan House task force to investigate what went wrong. Then, roughly 2 months later, a second apparent assassination attempt was thwarted at the former president's golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida. Eric Lipton joins us now. He's an investigative reporter for the New York Times who spoke with dozens of current and former Secret Service agents about what they consider underlying issues at the agency. Eric, so good to be able to talk to you about this. What are some of the factors that you found that are contributing to members leaving the agency?
It's sort of a vicious cycle where they've had so many people leaving the Secret Service. They're quitting, they're retiring, they're transferring to other federal law enforcement agencies. That as you went down in the number of employees at the agency in 2022 and 2023, there were even fewer people left, and they were being worked even harder, more forced overtime, more travel, more time away from their families. And so then even more were quitting. So it's this vicious cycle that they were stuck in, even as they were approaching the 2024 election, which they knew was going to be a really busy time with candidates traveling around the United States. There was also a NATO summit this year at the UN General Assembly, a lot of really big events, a lot of demands for agents and coverage and protecting the president, the vice president, and candidates and other dignitaries. So it was a very difficult time. And they've been unable until recently to kind of stop this attrition problem.
What are the consequences of this exodus?
It meant that some of the more senior agents who were being asked to work excessive numbers of hours. I spoke with one agent out of the Boston field office who said as of September, he had worked over 600 hours of overtime. And he had worked so many hours of overtime that he'd actually hit the federal maximum cap for how much he could be paid. So when he was asked to work even more overtime, and when you mean asked, you mean he was told, he was working for free because he couldn't be paid anymore. So they were maxing out is the term they use. And imagine being told you must work this weekend, you must travel away from your family, but when you're working overtime, you will be working for free. That's a kind of an incentive for someone to quit or retire or transfer out. And that's the kind of thing that they've been encountering.
So does the agency know about the frustration within its ranks? Are they doing anything to try and make up for some of this?
They do know about it, and they've been trying to confront it. And not only have they been trying to hire more quickly, but they've been trying to find ways to incentivize some of their more senior people to stay. They've offered them bonuses in salary bonuses if you're close to retirement, but you're willing to stay longer. They've offered them, help with childcare costs. So they have they've turned the corner a little bit so far in 2024. They've started to finally grow again after having shrunk for the last 2 years. And they shrunk even though they told Congress, if you give us tens of millions of extra dollars, we promise we will grow. And in fact, then even though they got the money, they shrunk because the attrition was so great. So they have enough incentives now that they are starting to actually see a net growth in the number of employees and agents. And so they're starting to see some progress, but they still have a long way to go.
Is funding an issue?
Funding is an issue when it comes to their training facilities and technology. They have not had enough money to build a modern, well-equipped training facility. They don't have a model of the White House where the Secret Service officers can train how to properly defend it. They don't have enough firing ranges. They don't have their Air Force One where they train, how to protect it is kind of this sad looking, 1960s era front of an airplane. And the conditions at the training facility are pretty sad overall. And they don't have all the technology that they need. They haven't had enough research and development dollars to make sure they have the most advanced drones and counter drones and enough pilots who are ready to operate them at short notice. So I think money is part of the problem, but management has been an issue as well.
What other important details did you uncover in your reporting that you think we should know about?
I mean, one of the most surprising thing was that this is an agency where promotions and hiring is a really the integrity of that process is really important, and we were startled when we learned that the guy who was the chief of the uniform division, which are the folks who protect the White House and other important federal buildings, that he was he was moonlighting as a real estate agent, and he was handling real estate transactions for some of his subordinates, and then he was promoting them at the same time. So he had financial relationship with subordinates that he was promoting, which really undermines the integrity of the promotion system and leads agents and officers to believe that, well, if you have a financial deal with your boss, maybe you'll get a promotion. And so we were quite surprised at that, and that individual ultimately resigned after the management became aware of it, but they never made public the fact that they became aware that this guy was, had financial relationships with his subordinates. So it just undermines the whole integrity of the promotion process. And that is another reason that people would leave. If they don't believe that they have a fair shake at getting a promotion, then why stay there? Go to another federal agency or go to a private sector job.
Just astounding. Eric Lipton with the New York Times, thank you for your reporting and for coming on tonight.
Thank you.